I'd like to take you back to 2007. I was standing outside my work on a cigarette break when this guy ran past me in the street. I don't know what it was about the guy, but I looked at him and he looked, so full of life. And I just thought for a second, why can't I be like him? Not exactly like him for obvious reasons, but why can't I be like him, full of life? Why am I standing here miserable in the pouring rain, feeling a bit sorry for myself, probably hungover, I can't really remember, when I could be out doing something like that. So I made a decision. And I didn't know what the change was going to be, but I knew I had to change something. Decisions, they're funny things. I think a lot of us like to pretend that we're decisive, but me personally, the amount of times I've said I'd like to go travelling, I'd like to go to university, and so on. They're not decisions, they're weak prayers. So this time I decided to have a plan and a structure, and it would be to stop smoking and to get fit. But how was I going to do that? That was a big challenge. I hated sports, I hated PE. Anybody that knows me before 2007 would say my favourite hobby is probably sitting watching television in my pants, with a beer probably or a fag in my hand. So how would I do this? Up until that point, I described my life without trying to sound cheesy as going with the flow, and that life is a river. And I'm going down this river, and when I come to a fork in the river, I don't make a choice, I just go with the flow. And and that's fine, and that got me so far, but I realised that I was about to go over the edge of the waterfall, and I didn't have any kind of plan. So I panicked, and the panic decision was to run a 10K. This was in 2008. Just a 10K, nothing big, but to me back then it felt like Everest. I'd never done anything like this. So I set a target of sub 1 hour for the 10K, and I've done it with 55 minutes with my friend Peter. Now, even to this day, it is the best achievement that I've ever done. It still lives in the memory long. And it really showed me with a bit of determination I could really, achieve my goals. So unlike Dave, I decided to cycle landing John O'Groats, slightly easier. But again, to me, it felt like Everest. I'd set the goal of 12 days to do this challenge, and I'd completed it in 11 days. Matthew pulled out after day 2 with an injury, but supported me up the country. And this, again, just further enhanced the feeling that I could achieve things if I really put my mind to it. In 1997, my mother passed away very suddenly from a brain hemorrhage, and I'd always wanted to do something in her memory. My girlfriend found this route online which existed for cyclists. I'd already done a cycle, I didn't want to do that, so I decided I would run from Amsterdam to Barcelona. Dividing the route 26.2, a marathon distance, it was 50 marathons plus a mile. But how do you prepare for something like this? I work a job, I've got a very demanding girlfriend who's in the audience. I'm in a band and other things as well. I went from running 30 miles a week for fitness to 80 to 100 miles a week for 9 months. And by some miracle, my body managed to stand up to the test, and this was the crowd that gathered to meet me in Amsterdam for the start of my run. Or it could be Queen's Day, what's the difference? This is when we arrived, and of course I'd done my research well, and this is May the 1st in Amsterdam, and of course 4 million people had come out to see me start my run, and I phoned the sponsors, they were delighted. But I set off, and after day 4, all the fun and laughter was over. My tibialis anterior tendon, which if you lift your foot off the ground, it's a tendon that sticks out, was swollen to 6 times the size that it should have been. I couldn't get my shoe on. Had to basically try and run a marathon with one shoe. My girlfriend convinced me to go and see a physio in Eindhoven. So I went to see him, didn't really want to. This was the result, a luminous sellotape on my leg. I left thinking, what's this guy done? I could have done this myself with a duct tape. I can only describe this guy as a witch, because after the half marathon that day, the pain was gone, and there was no more pain for the rest of the journey. Holland and Belgium, everybody knows they're flat countries, gets a bit boring after a while, so got to France and the border, and I really was excited to get some hills and a bit of different terrain. But I instantly regretted wishing that because it was harder than I ever could have imagined. And one of the biggest things in a challenge like this is a lot of luck involved, but also it's your fuel and your diet for the trip as well. And I really enjoyed being able to have 3 dinners every night. But I don't even have to say anything about this slide. This is basically a snack. When I was preparing my speech today at work, it just had cows/runners. Make a distinction between that and bloody nipples or others. So I'm not going to really say any more about that, but who wouldn't want to run 50 marathons, when you can eat something like this for lunch? But I got through France, 38 marathons to get down to the south of France, and the Pyrenees, which of course on paper was the biggest challenge of the whole trip, and it proved to be just that, because it was stiflingly hot by this point for a Scotsman. And I ran up the top, and I knew at the very top of this mountain that it was a crossing from France and into Spain. And I've been in France for so long, and getting to Spain, it really felt like the challenge was over. And I got to the top and it was great, and there was tears, and I phoned my dad and everything, and it was fantastic. And I announced on blog, this is brilliant, I've basically finished. And then I got a text from someone saying, good luck in the second hilliest country in Europe. So into Spain we went, and you know, it was just the final day into Barcelona, and I'd announced on my social media that I would do it in under 3 hours. I'd never run a marathon anywhere close to that, but I thought, well, it's boiling hot, I may as well give it a go. Because if I'm not setting challenges, I'm not living, you know, I'm just existing. So I kind of wanted to create a challenge within a challenge. I completed it in 3 hours and 8 minutes, and felt mixed emotions at the end. Bit of a failure because I hadn't done that, but amazing because I'd finished it. Sad and scared because I'd finished it a year planning this, and this was me and my father in the Plaza de Catalunya at the end. I got there, and the bump down to earth was when he said, we're all very lucky to be here. And I was like, oh, thanks very much, Dad, you know, that's brilliant. He goes, no, I mean, the airport was on strike for 22 hours. We're all very lucky to be here. Yeah. And of course, I was doing this for charity in memory of my mother. We raised over £33,000 for the Edinburgh Headway Group. They had helped my dad when she passed away. The overriding emotion for me now is just to feel very lucky to have been able to do it. Just when there's so many people that, like the guys here, that can't run, they can't, you know, walk, they don't have an option to do it. And if there's one thing I'd like you to take from my talk is, you know, I started here just to say to do a 10K, and it's led me to have a career that I love, which is unfortunately isn't an adventure, and it's actually fundraising. But it's a career that I love, and I'll just leave my favourite quote, which is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it's, unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. And that's the way I'll continue to live my life. Thank you very much.